historically, if you had this brilliant, vivid image in your head, getting it out into the real world was just an absolute grind.
Oh, totally. It was a massive undertaking.
Right. Like you had to actually learn to draw, master perspective, spend years figuring out how lighting works.
Or pay someone a lot of money to do all of that for you.
Exactly. There was always this like massive steep toll bridge between your imagination and the actual final execution.
Yeah, the execution phase was always a rigid bottleneck. It required highly specialized technical skills,
Right.
and without them, your idea simply stayed locked inside your head. You could, describe it to someone, but you couldn't manifest it yourself.
But a new breakdown from a source called Peakpod AI reveals that this toll bridge hasn't just been lowered. It has been completely vaporized by artificial intelligence.
It really has.
So today we are exploring Leonardo AI, which is one of the internet's fastest growing AI image generation platforms.
Fast growing is an understatement.
Yeah, seriously. And our mission for this deep dive is to understand the actual mechanics of how this tool translates your text into visual art, why millions of creators are adopting it, and how it is actively reshaping the boundaries of traditional design.
A lot to cover.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this.
To grasp the magnitude of this, we really need to frame Leonardo AI not just as some, trendy software application.
Right. It's more than a gimmick.
Exactly. It's a fundamental shift in visual production. We are talking about bridging that gap between human imagination and digital creation in a matter of seconds.
Seconds, which is wild.
But to understand the hype, we have to look under the hood.
Because from the outside, it honestly feels like magic. Like you the user, you open a text box and you just describe what you want to see.
It's that simple.
The source gives a couple of great examples of what these prompts look like. You could type, create a futuristic city at sunset with flying cars and neon lights.
A very classic sci-fi prompt.
Right. Or you could be way more functional and type, generate a cinematic YouTube thumbnail about artificial intelligence.
Boom.
Boom, it gives you these highly detailed options. It's like sitting at a restaurant where the chef can instantly cook whatever you describe.
Right, to your exact specification.
Yeah, before you even finish your sentence. But I want to push back on the magic label for a second.
Fair enough.
What is the actual mechanism here? Like, how is a computer reading my sentence and suddenly knowing how to draw a neon sci-fi city?
Well, it is definitely not magic, and the AI is certainly not thinking or drawing the way a human would.
Okay.
The underlying technology relies on a process called latent diffusion.
Latent diffusion. Okay, break that down for me because that sounds intense.
It sounds complicated, but imagine a television screen displaying pure, random, static, just absolute visual noise.
Like the old analog TVs when you're on the wrong channel.
Exactly. The AI starts with that static. Now, during its training phase, the AI analyzed billions of images and their associated text descriptions.
Billions.
Wow. Right. So it learned the mathematical patterns of what neon looks like, what a city looks like, and what sunset lighting looks like.
Okay, I'm following.
So when you give it your prompt, it uses those learned patterns to progressively remove the noise step by step until an image that matches your description emerges from the static.
Wow. Let me make sure I'm wrapping my head around this.
Yeah.
It's almost like a sculptor starting with a massive unformed block of static noise.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
And every word in my text prompt acts like a chisel, chipping away the pixels that don't match my description until the final image is revealed.
That is a phenomenal way to visualize it. Your prompt is essentially directing the chiseling process.
That's fascinating.
But this raises an important question about control. Because if the machine is doing the chiseling, are you just, pulling a lever on a slot machine and settling for whatever it spits out?
See, that is my exact worry. Because if I'm building assets for a professional project, I can't just cross my fingers and hope the slot machine gives me a usable game asset or marketing graphic.
Of course not. And that is where Leonardo AI separates itself from simpler generators. The output is highly malleable.
Malleable.
You are establishing the guardrails. You can adjust the aspect ratios, modify the rendering steps, and even dictate the creativity levels of the AI itself.
Wait, so if I dial down the creativity slider, I'm basically telling the AI to stick rigidly to my prompt.
Exactly.
So it doesn't just decide to turn my neon city into some surrealist cyberpunk fever dream.
Precisely. You are telling it how much freedom it has to interpret your words. You also have control over the simulated lighting, the camera angles, and fine details.
Wow.
You can direct it almost like a virtual cinematographer, and that leads to a crucial takeaway from the source material.
Which is?
Prompt engineering has evolved into an entirely new, highly valuable skill.
Ah, because you have to learn how to speak the machine's language.
Yes. The source highlights some key tips for prompt writing. A beginner might just type, "a cool dog."
Right, and the result will probably be pretty generic.
Very generic. But a skilled prompt engineer will type, "a golden retriever wearing vintage aviator goggles, sitting on a leather armchair, cinematic lighting, 35mm lens, photorealistic depth of field."
Oh, wow. So you are giving the AI the exact parameters for the lighting, the camera equipment, the subject, the texture.
Everything.
You're writing the perfect recipe for that instant chef.
Exactly.
That makes total sense. But, generating a neat image is one thing. If you are actually going to rely on this for a YouTube thumbnail or an advertising creative, you have to go beyond just basic generation.
What's fascinating here is how Leonardo AI addresses the issue of aesthetic style. One of its biggest strengths, according to the breakdown, is its diverse range of image models.
And when you say models, you mean the specific sets of training data the AI relies on.
Correct. Different models within the platform are optimized with entirely different mathematical weights and purposes. Think about the physics of a photorealistic portrait. The AI needs to understand the intricate details of light bouncing off skin, the texture of pores, and how a camera lens blurs the background.
Right, but if I want to generate a piece of 2D anime art, or like a flat vector logo, those rules of photorealism don't apply at all. You need bold lines and flat colors.
Exactly. Which is why forcing every single image through one generic, one-size-fits-all system produces mediocre results.
It just looks messy.
Right. If you try to pull a cartoon illustration out of a model trained strictly on photography, you get a very unsettling hybrid aesthetic.
Yeah, nobody wants that weird uncanny valley look.
Leonardo allows creators to bypass that entirely by choosing the specific model that excels at their exact need.
Oh, that's smart.
They have distinct models for realistic photography, fantasy art, anime styles, cinematic scenes, concept art, and specialized graphic design.
That level of targeting control is huge. It really stops the tool from just being a toy. But the source also spends a lot of time on what happens after the generation. It mentions that Leonardo's workspace is packed with editing features. Like, once you generate that image, you aren't just stuck with a flat file.
No, it acts as an entire creative suite designed for iteration.
And some of these features sound wild. For example, the upscaling tool. The source says you can enhance the resolution so the image actually looks professional on a big screen or in print.
Right.
But, you take a small image and just stretch it, it normally becomes a blurry, pixelated mess.
Yeah.
How does AI upscaling bypass that?
It goes back to that learned pattern recognition we talked about earlier. Traditional software just stretches the existing pixels and tries to guess the colors between them.
Resulting in that blurry look.
Right. But AI upscaling actually hallucinates entirely new details.
Hallucinates.
Yeah. If you upscale a blurry image of a brick wall, the AI recognizes it as a brick wall and generates the missing textures, the mortar, and the grit that should be there, fundamentally increasing the actual fidelity of the image.
So it's not stretching the image, it's repainting it with more detail.
Exactly.
That is incredible. The source also highlights background removal and a feature called image expansion.
Yes, outpainting.
Right. So if I generate a portrait, but I suddenly realize I need it to be a widescreen landscape for a website banner, the AI just invents the rest of the scene outside the original frame.
It does. It analyzes the context of the edge pixels and extrapolates outward.
That's crazy.
If it sees a forest floor at the bottom edge of your image, it continues generating leaves, doot, and roots seamlessly beyond the original border.
It is a critical distinction.
Yeah.
Because that transforms the platform from a simple image generator into a complete workspace where you are actively molding the visuals step by step.
A fully fleshed out suite.
But having a million powerful tools is completely useless if you need a computer science degree to actually operate them. Which brings us to the actual users. Who is sitting at the controls of this workspace?
The demographic shift here is staggering. The source mentions that Leonardo AI initially targeted game developers.
Which tracks? Building an indie game requires thousands of visual assets. You need textures, character concepts, environmental backgrounds.
Yeah.
That is a massive bottleneck for a small team.
Huge bottleneck. But the platform is no longer confined to game design. It is being used by millions of people across a massive spectrum.
Like who?
YouTubers, marketers, entrepreneurs, graphic designers, freelancers, authors. And perhaps most importantly, it is being utilized heavily by people with absolutely zero traditional artistic background.
Wow. And the driving force behind that massive, rapid adoption across so many fields, it's time. For
Exactly.
modern content creators and professionals, speed is the ultimate currency.
Consider the traditional workflow. Historically, if an entrepreneur needed a custom marketing graphic or a website asset, they had to spend hours creating it manually.
Assuming they had the software and the skills in the first place.
Right. If not, they had to hire a freelance designer, write a detailed brief, wait days for initial drafts, request revisions, and wait again.
It's exhausting.
It was a slow, iterative process involving multiple schedules.
I've been in that exact cycle. It can literally take weeks to finalize a single hero image for a landing page. But now, that entire friction point has been removed. You type a prompt, you choose a model, you generate the image, you upscale it, and you're done in, what, 90 seconds?
Give or take, yeah. And when you remove that friction, the practical use cases just explode.
Yeah, the source lists an incredibly diverse range of applications. Creators are generating YouTube thumbnails, UI assets, social media posts, website graphics, character concepts, product visualizations, book covers, logos, and advertising creatives.
It covers almost everything.
Just think about the sheer volume of content a modern business has to produce to stay relevant today. They need a new graphic for Instagram, a thumbnail for video, an ad creative for Facebook, all in the same afternoon.
It's a content treadmill.
Yeah. Whether you are prepping a presentation for an afternoon meeting and need a compelling slide graphic, or you're an author needing visual concepts for your fantasy novel, the barrier between your initial imagination and the polished creation has never been lower. It is unprecedented access to visual production.
It is empowering on an individual level. But we have to acknowledge the broader implications. When you collapse a multi-day design process into a 3-second prompt, the ground beneath the creative industry shifts drastically.
It is an absolute industry earthquake.
Right.
And that naturally leads to the big, uncomfortable question.
Right.
If anyone, literally anyone with an internet connection, can generate professional quality visual assets in seconds, what happens to traditional design workflows? What happens to the people who spent a decade learning how to paint or master Illustrator?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the source outlines profound tensions echoing across the entire creative industry. It is a highly complex situation with deeply entrenched arguments on both sides.
And just to be completely clear with you listening, our goal here isn't to pick a side or pass a moral judgment on this transition.
No, not at all.
It is a highly charged economic and philosophical debate. But regardless of where you personally stand, the shift toward AI-generated content is a reality that is already impacting the market. So let's look at the arguments the source lays out. What are the two sides of this earthquake?
Well, on one side, you have those who champion AI as a revolutionary creative assistant. They view it as an empowering tool that massively boosts productivity.
Okay.
The argument here is that AI takes over the tedious, time-consuming aspects of design, like rendering perfect lighting or creating repetitive textures, allowing the human creator to focus entirely on high-level concepts, strategy, and storytelling.
It's the democratization argument.
Precisely.
Like a small business owner or a solo indie developer who could never afford a $20,000 marketing agency or a team of concept artists can suddenly compete visually with much larger companies. It gives them a superpower.
Yes, it levels the playing field for output. But on the exact opposite side of that coin, there are profound, deeply felt worries from working professionals.
Which is totally understandable.
The primary concern revolves around the training data. The latent diffusion models we discussed earlier didn't learn what a neon city or a golden retriever looks like in a vacuum.
Right.
They were trained on billions of images, many of which were created by human artists.
Right, which brings up massive questions about copyright and fair compensation. I mean, I can completely understand why an illustrator would feel incredibly threatened and frustrated if they spent 15 years developing a highly specific, recognizable art style.
Only to see a machine replicate that exact style in 3 seconds because their portfolio was scraped for training data.
Exactly. It's gut-wrenching.
It blurs the definition of originality. Is the AI creating something new by mathematically blending learned concepts, or is it a hyper-advanced form of digital collage?
That's the million-dollar question.
Furthermore, there is an existential question regarding the future role of the human designer.
That's the part that really makes you pause. Because if a marketing director can just prompt an AI for a social media campaign or generate 10 different logo variations before lunch, Do they still hire the junior graphic designer? Does the entry-level design job disappear entirely?
The source notes that this conversation is dominating every creative field, from graphic design to illustration to game development. The technology is moving so fast that it has completely outpaced the traditional legal and economic frameworks we use to value creative work.
We're basically playing catch-up.
We are in the middle of a very messy transition period where the old rules no longer apply and the new rules haven't been written yet.
It is a messy transition, but reading through this breakdown, it's clear that this isn't just a temporary fad. This points directly to where the entire digital landscape is heading. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the story isn't just about Leonardo AI generating a cool 2D image today. It's about the broader trajectory of AI-powered content creation. This platform is just a glimpse into an ongoing evolution.
It is merely the tip of the spear. The source maps out a vision for the near future that is just staggering in its scope.
Where are we heading?
We are rapidly moving toward an era where the generation won't be limited to static images. The next frontier involves entire, multifaceted projects being completely AI-generated.
We are talking about complex video content, fully interactive digital experiences, and complete digital products.
Imagine typing a prompt, not for a single character concept, but for a fully rendered 3D game world.
Wait, really? Just talking to the system? Like, hey, build me a playable 3D game level set in a medieval castle, make the lighting gloomy, add cobblestone textures, and populate it with NPC guards.
Yes, and the AI just synthesizes the geometry, the textures, and the lighting in real time.
I can't even wrap my head around that.
The staggering conclusion drawn from this trajectory is a massive shift in scale. What historically required large, highly coordinated creative teams,
Like concept artists passing work to 3D modelers.
who pass it to texture artists, who pass it to lighting specialists. That entire pipeline may soon be executed entirely by a single individual acting as a director.
The solo creator doing the work of an entire studio right from their laptop. It is completely mind-bending to think about how that changes entertainment, marketing, and media. We've gone from that long, slow toll bridge of traditional art right into an instantaneous world where the only limit is how well you can describe what is in your head.
It forces us to ask what the fundamental role of the human will be in that future.
Yeah.
If the technical execution, the rendering of the image, the coding of the engine, the application of the brushstroke, if all of that is entirely automated by the machine, what is left for us?
That is the ultimate question. If anyone can make absolutely anything, what makes one piece of content better than another?
And that raises a final thought I want to leave you with, building on everything we've discussed today. If the labor of craft is no longer a barrier, perhaps the true art of the future won't be the ability to create, but the ability to curate. Yes, in a world drowning in infinite, instantly generated content, the most valuable human skill might simply be having the absolute best taste, knowing exactly what is worth making in the first place.
That is definitely something to chew on the next time you see an impossibly perfect, hyper-detailed image scrolling across your timeline. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Leonardo AI and the fascinating breakdown from Peakpod AI. Thank you so much for joining us. We love unpacking these massive technological shifts with you, and we can't wait to see you back here for the next deep dive.